Right.
So it's to your point that you're now taking away, you're separating them from any of the connections they have in the world and putting them in this new bucket that is just saying that it's probably proving their inner monologue that they're broken.
It absolutely could be. It absolutely could be. So so where we do this risk assessment thing, which isn't which is problematic, and then if the risk assessment indicates they're a high risk, then we hospitalize, which is also problematic. So we have
Right.
this weird system. Now, I do want to say, just for the listeners, I'm not saying that hospitalization is never helpful. What I always suggest is, or I always say is, it's incredibly idiosyncratic. What does the patient need? What does the patient want? What is the experience? So you're in Spain. What the hospitalization experience in Spain, in your specific city, is probably different than a hospitalization experience in Vancouver. And
Right.
frankly, we have 3 or 4 hospitals within, relatively close proximity here, that if you're a patient and you go to hospital A versus hospital B, your experience is going to be different at those places as well. So
Right.
this isn't to say hospitalization is never helpful. But you need to really be thoughtful. You need to really consider, like, what is the actual treatment that the patient gets at this hospital, and will it meet their needs? Will it help them? Or this is, I think, often, at least in North America, how we think about it, which is like hospitalization is just like safe. So we're going to put them there so they're quote unquote safe, which they're not. But so we're going to put them there so it's safe and so that I don't get sued. And that's what we're going to do. Right. And
Right. It's
like,
it's more accounting for like corporate or institutional liability than it is for the care of the patient.
yeah. And it's this crazy thing that we experience in our training. There's like, and it's not done maliciously, but there is sort of the fear of God put into us, that if we don't check these boxes, then we could be held liable.
Right.
Um, and one of the things, that what's sort of amazing, and I've gone through both like the American Psychological Association and the Canadian Psychological Association, their ethics codes, which is, not the most fun thing to read. And there's nothing in there about like this being our obligation. So it's like, well, why do we do it? But there is stuff in there that is actually antagonistic to this being our obligation. Like, one of our jobs as psychologists is to facilitate our clients' autonomy, to not restrict their autonomy.
Hmm.
And hospitalization can be very autonomy restrictive. So it's this weird thing that we do. And I think it's a real problem. And we really need to change our way of thinking about working with suicidal clients.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate that because I always want to think about anyone that, like you said, there's no way for us to know who is having suicidal ideation. I was speaking to a friend recently, and they were saying that they had planned something, and then
Mhm.
they didn't go through with it, and I had absolutely no idea. And so I was thinking like maybe if people talk about suicide a little bit more, then
Mhm.
people could get more help, and they could know that there are outlets and people that
Mhm.
are close to them and professionals and etc. So I appreciate that. To get to segue back into talking to people again, to have when you're having these normal conversations between people, and there's plenty of books on it, like nonviolent communication or crucial conversations I read, which I really love that book that helped me think about things a lot differently.